So one of the debates among mixing engineers is, should we make the mix sound exactly like we want the record to sound, or should we leave a bit of room for mastering? And I mix and master hundreds of records, so I'm on both sides of this debate, but I've got some pretty strong opinions about this. And really, we're boiling it down to, should we use a limiter, like a brick wall mastering limiter, while we're mixing and make that part of our final mix, or should we leave some dynamics and headroom for the mastering engineer to do his or her work? This is a big debate among mixing engineers, but I've got some pretty strong opinions. And I'll give you 3 reasons why you might want to consider that I might be right about this. First is, a lot of mixers aren't as hot as they think they are. They're not as good as they think they are. So they'll say, I'm a mixer, this is my vision, I don't want any mastering engineer messing my stuff up. Okay, I get it. But it's, crazy how many times I've gotten things to master that were done by, big mixers that actually had real problems that needed to be fixed. And the ones that have sent me things that are just already smashed, sometimes even louder than I would make the final master, it's completely tied my hands. So there's a lot of times things I think need fixed, or even more importantly, there are things that the artist wants differently. Like they said, we really wanted the bass to feel different, but we couldn't get it in the mix. Hopefully you can do that in the mastering. Or we really wanted to deal with this sibilance issue that we couldn't get in the mix. Can you do some work on that? So a lot of the things that I could do to fix in my mind, or to get the mix closer to what the artist is trying to get done, my hands are tied if already the levels are really smashed into a limiter. So that's number 1. At this point, I need to add something. And by the way, I might look and sound a little funny. I just got some dental work 45 minutes ago, and half my face is numb. But whenever I make this argument online, inevitably, there's going to be some engineers on the internet that are going to write in and basically say, a real mastering engineer can deal with whatever they're sent. I get it. That's pretty much true. I'm decent at my job. There's lots of other men and women who are great at their job and can take things that are less than optimal and work around those difficulties. But this isn't about that. This is about trying to get mixes delivered to the mastering engineer in a way that works best for the final result and what the artist wants. If we want to do something, or the artist wants to do something to get a little more clarity into the low end, a little more separation between the kick and the bass, we can do that better with more headroom, with a little bit of dynamics in there. If it's a situation where the mix sounds great, but on certain notes, the singer gets a little strident when he or she hits those notes, well, there's some cool tricks that we can do, but if we have a little bit of dynamic in the mix, we can do those better to smooth out those notes and get an overall better end result. So this isn't about making my life easier or mastering engineer's life easier. It's about making better records. Because the reality is, when somebody sends me something that's super smashed, there's not that much I can do. So there's less work involved in doing those, and I charge the same price whether you send me something with dynamics or something that is smashed. And if having that limiter is a really important part of the sound, of the vision you had with your mixer, or if you're the mixer, a great thing to do is actually send the mastering engineer both the one with some dynamics and headroom, and the other one's limiting, and telling her that, yes, this is kind of the vibe we were going for. Do your thing. All right, off to the next thing. Number 2 is, a lot of times your mixes end up on compilations of things with mixes done by other mixers. Whether it's a pop artist who had their tracks mixed by 4 or 5 different mixers, or this is a compilation soundtrack, or this is a greatest hits record. You run into opportunities a lot where your mixes are going to live with other mixes. And if you have completely slammed and made your mix really, really loud, you have really tied the hands of what the artist and the mastering engineer and the label can do to create a cohesive mix. So you've really tied the hands of what they can do in terms of overall loudness and dynamics, but also tied things in terms of what they can do in terms of vocal presence and brightness and roundness. So really being aggressive with limiting or before mastering creates problems for making a cohesive album from other different perspectives. And I want to throw a side note into this conversation. I'm not a zealot about the loudness war. My whole thing is I want to make records that make the artists want to high five and their fans love. Sometimes that means making insanely loud records. So there's a lot of genres and fan bases that love crazy loud records. And if somebody sends me a mix that has some dynamics that isn't super loud already, there's a lot that I can do to make that really loud and exciting and maintain a sense of dynamics and presence. But again, if I'm sent something that is just smashed from the mixer, I'm really tied in terms of what I can do to step that up to the next level. One quick side note before I tell you number 3, which is super important. I'm here, this is my terrace in my place in Italy. I'm in beautiful Ripatrenzone, Italy, which is one of the most beautiful medieval hill towns in all of Italy. And in September, I am doing the first ever Ripa International Festival of Sound. It is going to be a 4-day gathering here in central Italy, overlooking the Adriatic Sea. We're going to have 4 days of workshops and master classes and cultural events, wine tasting, museums. It's going to be an amazing event. And what's interesting and different about it is that myself and everybody involved, we're all doing it as volunteers. The ticket price is really low because we're just trying to create an event that gets people from around the world together to have a great time, to learn from each other, network, exchange ideas, and all those kinds of things. So it's September 24th is the first day, and ripasound.com. We're just about to open registration soon, but I already have people saying they're coming from Canada, United States, Iceland, France, Spain, Italy, obviously. So it's going to be a pretty amazing event, and if it sounds like something you would dig in this amazing, amazing place, go to ripasound.com and get more information. But boom, number 3, the third reason why you may not want to smash the bejesus out of your mixes before mastering. And this is a big one. If your band, your client, whatever, is going to have the opportunity to have something pressed onto vinyl, super, super loud, aggressive mixes and masters do not translate well to vinyl. Really, really loud, aggressive records compromise the quality of what you can do with vinyl. So when I do things that are headed towards vinyl, if I'm doing a really loud, aggressive digital for streaming or CD masters for vinyl, I'm always going to make an alternate version that is a little more dynamic, has a little more headroom, maybe a little less aggressive sibilance, because these are going to make the final product better. So if you have done a mix that is crazy loud, and that is the only version we have of a final mix, you have really compromised what the cutting engineer is going to be able to do to make a great sounding final result on vinyl. If you make stuff super, super loud, your mix is super loud and you do not have an alternate version, again, you have tied the mastering engineer's hands in terms of fixing problems or maybe altering things that better fit the vision of the artist down the road. You have really messed up things in terms of creating a mix that will be able to blend well into a compilation album of things done by various mixers, and you have compromised the quality of what that artist can do with a vinyl release. So those are the 3 big reasons why I strongly encourage people to not make super, super loud mixes. That said, anybody who mixes records knows that the artist wants to hear a really loud reference, and if it's not super loud, they're gonna think something's wrong and maybe think you did a bad version on the mix. So when I'm mixing for clients, I'm always creating 2 versions. I'm creating a reference version that's big, loud, and exciting, very close to what the final result will be, but I'm always printing and always keeping in reserve a version that is more dynamic to give my artist and their label more opportunities, more places that they can use this mix that I've done while maintaining great quality. All right, that is it for now. Again, ciao from beautiful Ripatranzone, Italy. Come hang out with us in September if you like. And if you agree or disagree with me about any of this, I'm sure there's a bunch that disagree with what I've said, leave it for me in the comments. And with all this stuff, keep having fun and keep staying focused on the music. Hey, look, there's Dave Mustaine's house.